Good morning. This is Mission Control Houston. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's edition of ISS Update this Thursday, March 22nd. We are now coming to you live from inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where the team here has been monitoring the systems aboard the station and supporting the day's activities of the Expedition 30 crew members. Leading the Orbit 2 team here in the Station Flight Control Room today is Flight Director Mike Lammer, shown here in the right-hand side of your screen in the white shirt, with astronaut Dan Tawney next to him in the blue shirt, who is serving as Capcom, relaying all ground messages up to the crew. Tawney flew to the International Space Station for the first time aboard Space Shuttle Endeavour STS-108 in December 2001, bringing with him the Expedition 4 crew to the station. On his second spaceflight, Tawney served as Expedition 16 flight engineer and spent 120 days living and working aboard the International Space Station. The 6 crew members aboard the station now include NASA astronaut and commander of the complex Dan Burbank, and flight engineers and cosmonauts Anton Shkaplerov and Anatoly Ivanishyn, as well as NASA astronaut Don Pettit, shown here on the right-hand side, with cosmonaut Oleg Kononenko and European Space Agency astronaut Andrei Kuipers. Commander Burbank, Shkaplerov, and Ivanishyn arrived at the orbiting complex mid-November last year. They will complete their 130th consecutive day in space today, with a little more than a month remaining of their 5.5-month stay aboard the space station. Meanwhile, Burbank, Kononenko, and Kuipers launched to the space station 3 months ago on December 21st, arriving at the station 2 days later and making up the complete crew of the Expedition 30 that is now aboard the space station. The space station with its crew aboard is now flying at an altitude of about 248 statute miles. The orbiting facility is making a northeastern track on a night pass across the North Pacific Ocean, just passing over Australia. Today, Station Commander Dan Burbank, flight engineers Andrei Kuipers and Don Pettit are working on more cleanup of the permanent multi-purpose module, also known as Leonardo, or the Space Closet. The crew members are relocating items and storage to their permanent spaces aboard the International Space Station. Much of this cleanup is being done in preparation of the soon-to-arrive cargo ship, the European Space Agency's Automated Transfer Vehicle 3, or Eduardo Amaldi. Eduardo Amaldi, with its 7-ton load of supplies, is scheduled to lift off aboard the Ariane 5 rocket from Kourou, French Guiana, late this evening at 11:34 p.m. Central Time, and begin its 5.5-day journey to the space station. Flight engineer Don Pettit will wrap up his share of cleanup work to continue work he began earlier this week to install software and reconfigure a laptop computer that was associated with an express rack. These express racks are housed in a refrigerator-sized container that acts as an exterior shell. They enable quick, simple integration of up to 10 experiment payloads. And Andrei Kuipers will then take a break from the cleanup activity to perform some maintenance to the water recovery system. This system converts urine, sweat, and condensation into safe, drinkable water for the crew's consumption. Earlier this morning aboard the International Space Station, Commander Burbank kicked off his day with 2 hours of daily regular exercise. He participated in an inventory management stowage conference and set up for several hours of transferring items from that permanent multi-purpose module. Flight engineer Don Pettit did some preparation work for the configuration to the Express Rack laptop computer, and Andrei Kuipers spent a significant amount of time early this morning collecting personal data as part of the CARD experiment that studies blood pressure decreases in the human body exposed to microgravity for long periods of time as that of a station resident. Kuipers then also tended to another science experiment known as Viable, or the evaluation and monitoring of microbiofilms inside the International Space Station. That study looks at the development of microbiofilm development on space materials. The results from this study may lead to solutions to improve the environmental quality of manned confined habitats on space, but also specific bases and modules on Earth where humans have to stay for a long term, particularly for scientific purposes. Meanwhile, on the Russian side of the house, Anatoly Ivanishin had spent a couple of hours with activities for the pneumocard experiment that studies the adaptation of the cardiovascular system of crew members during a long-duration microgravity mission. Cosmonaut Oleg Kononenko had snapped images of the Earth for the Uragan, or hurricane, experiment that studies Earth's natural resources by monitoring catastrophes. A little after today's ISS update hour, Commander Burbank will work in the Japanese pressurized module to measure resistance of image processing unit power connector and fuse to identify where a shorted circuit is in the power line. And at the end of today, each crew member will have exercise to maintain his physical fitness and help mitigate the negative effects of microgravity on their bodies. The Expedition 30 crew members will do some evening prep work for another busy day in space tomorrow. They will then participate in their final daily planning conference with ground controllers around the world before entering their pre-sleep period. Meanwhile, back on Earth in Kourou, French Guiana, preparations remain on track for the launch of the European Space Agency's Eduardo Amaldi, the Automated Transfer Vehicle 3 cargo craft. Again, that launch is scheduled to take place tonight at 11:34 p.m. Central Time. Launch coverage will begin here on NASA television at 11 p.m. tonight. The crew is scheduled to go to bed at 3:30 p.m. Central Time and is scheduled to be asleep at the time of launch. However, Mission Control Houston will be uplinking the video of the launch real time for the crew's viewing. This is Mission Control Houston.